Yeah, hopefully your podcast provider network was not fast enough to allow you to download 30 seconds into the show, so you could not hit the 15-second fast-forward button twice and get through my fabulous intro. I would be very upset. This is another edition of the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. I'm Jason Weigandt. Second show this week. I had to make up for some lost time, lost technology, lost software, lost ability to do these for a bit. Blame it on Mathis. But we're back. I had to do a magazine story for Racer X, the magazine. Totally different stuff than you would see online or on social media or even in this podcast, except for a few small quotes from this interview, which I will use in a magazine story that covers a ton of different riders in the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship. I wanted to talk about the grueling stretch of races, Florida, Southwick, Redbud, and how riders and trainers coped with recovery and how they're feeling after an off week heading into Millville. So for that topic, I wanted to talk to Blake Savage, who's a trainer for Chase Sexton and Ken Roczen, who probably had the worst of it of anyone through that stretch. Sexton won the first moto at Florida and then couldn't even race the second moto there, essentially. Couldn't race the second moto at Southwick, then didn't race Redbud, and then finally announced this week that he'll be back this weekend for Millville. But scratch Sexton from title contention. He was actually in it a little bit, almost just right behind Dylan Ferrandis after that moto in Florida, and then it all went to hell. Same thing for Ken Roczen, who was leading the 450 points after the first moto in Florida, and it's kind of all went to hell for him. So I wanted to call their trainer, Blake Savage, but also talk to Savage about his own recovery. You may recall, talked to Savage for a podcast, I believe it was in April. Been a really rough year for Blake because he's not just trying to help his riders recover, but he was paralyzed in a crash while riding Supercross with Roczen earlier this year. He's recovering, he's getting better, he's gaining movement and feeling, but it's been about 3 months since we talked to him on one of these, so I wanted to get an update on Blake himself and the riders around him and what they're doing to try to cope. Roczen and Sexton will be back this weekend for Millville, and according to Savage here, they're feeling much better than they were at the last couple of races. Shout out to Yoshimura, of course, our sponsor here. Yoshimura has all new exhaust systems coming for Honda's all new trail bikes, mini bikes, play bikes, whatever you want to call them. The CRF 110F and the CRF 125F, 10% horsepower gain in the little 110, 3% gain in the 125. That's still, I'm going to say, noticeable because these bikes aren't churning out a ton of power, so every little bit helps. Plus, they just look cool. That's the bottom line. And you can see how cool they look. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. 60-plus years of four-stroke research and development there. Also, Air Medcare Network. What if you're hospitalized with an injury far from home? You'd want to recover close to family and friends. And with Air Medcare Network Fly You Home membership, you'll have control of where you're treated. You'll be transported to your local hospital of choice with no out-of-pocket cost. Save $10 with the offer code 10MOTO. Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/RacerXoffer1. That's the number 1 to find out more about this. Yeah, as I mentioned, got a new issue of Racer X magazine. We're about to wrap. We have one that just came out. Has Marvin Musquin, not cover cursed, on the cover. So you want to see that one. I wrote an exclusive story about the 250 class, who's moving where for next year. See it on newsstands now, or just go to racerxonline.com/subscribe. All right, enough with the promos. Let's get Blake Savage on the line. Thanks for listening. So first, give us an update. How are you doing? I saw you at Vegas Supercross. Seemed like you were pumped up. Things were happening. How's it been last couple of months for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been still a roller coaster of emotions and things like that. For a while, it was I'll have a couple good days, a couple bad days, and then sometimes I'd get sick and be dealing with like a UTI issue or even bladder spasms as things start to kind of come back. You run into problems like that, and it just makes you feel terrible. So on top of dealing with this injury that I have, when you feel sick and out of it, it can really throw you into a tailspin and make you feel terrible. So if I could just avoid that stuff, I think I'd be looking pretty good. But as far as the PT side of things, everything's been going really good. I've been finding new movement still and making progress. It's just it comes so slowly with this injury. It's not like a broken femur or even a torn ACL or anything like that, where you kind of have a predicted time that you can get returned back to play or your sport or anything like that. And with my injury, there's nothing guaranteed by any means. But as far as what I've been seeing lately, all the pieces of the puzzle, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to build off that and build strength and just develop a just really high repetition PT around it and kind of show those the neural pathways what to do, and over time I just think more movement will just start to show up.
Yeah, so like in general, can you say like as a baseline, like, oh, from where I was in April or May, I can do X, Y, and Z that I wasn't able to do before? Is it that simple, or is it like some comes, some goes? How does that all work?
Well, from a strength standpoint, of like my core, for example, is starting to come back pretty good, and my lower back muscles. So those are two things that you really need to be able to stabilize through your trunk and stabilize your pelvis area too. With that, I mean, you can get leg movement back, but if you don't have anything to support the rib cage and core and pelvis area, everything kind of like the pillar of your body, then the movement in your legs is going to be useless, really. So those are some of the things that have really started to develop for me and come back. But on top of that, I've been getting better glute strength and knee extension, hip flexion. There's been a lot that has kind of happened since I saw you last in Vegas.
Yep.
Supercross.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, from that time to now, it feels like it's taken forever, or it's been a really long time and not a lot has happened. But I think people around me, they see progress quicker than what I see it, just because I'm living it day to day, and it seems like the days and the weeks and months go by so slow. But at this point, I'm mentally pretty in a good spot and a little more patient, because now that I see that all the pieces are there, I just have to put in the work. So that's really what I've been doing lately, is doing minimum of 2 hours a day and doing absolutely everything I can to get back to moving. So I'm just working hard, and I'm kind of picturing this being a really good comeback story and trying to set an example for other spinal cord injuries for the future, and showing people that anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So yeah, you think it's slow, but to me, like, we're only talking May and July here, so that's not really that long. But I'm sure that's the thing. You just want it to be done right now, like tomorrow. That's the difference, right?
Yeah, I know. And then and people, they tell me like, "Oh, you're doing so good. You're making such good progress," but really, they only see the Instagram posts that I make when I actually do have kind of a breakthrough, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's making such good progress," but they don't see how like the work that it took to even get that there. They kind of just see the highlights of my progress and my recovery.
The people that you're working with, like your PT people and all that, are they still like, "This is awesome, keep going"? And because I know that they were kind of helping almost because you were a special case, because they just knew from your background you were willing to put in a lot of work. So is that all still there?
Yeah, for sure. Still working with the same people, and they're all more motivated than ever. Seeing that I have all the capability there and all the movements I need to be able to function normally. So I'm actually doing more PT now than what I ever have, because you get to a certain point when everything's there, you have to really start to grease the groove and get some high reps in there to show the brain and spinal cord and all the pathways you need between the two, and make that connection to actually make some progress.
Yep. And meanwhile, are you still how involved are you still with your guys, your riders? How's that going?
Yeah, still involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still very involved. I mean, it's been tough for me. I feel like that's actually been one of the biggest things that I face on a kind of downer day is knowing that I'm not on the job with my guys and working, and it sucks working over the phone. I want to be at the track with them, and in the gym, and riding the bikes and everything with them, because
Yep.
I mean they give me their feedback on how they're doing and how they're feeling and progressing, but really until you actually see it in person, and see what their mood and energy is like, like us, like like Chase, for example, he'll just tell me, like, how you feeling today, and I kind of just get the same reply every day. He's like, oh, I'm doing good, but really I'm like, no, really break it down for me. And so I don't really get to see that side of things at long distance. So that's really tough for me, mentally, just not being there on the job with them.
Yeah, so is that a thing, like they can tell you they're feeling good, but if you see them, you can almost, like, you just get a sixth sense if you're there that they're tired or something?
For sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chase is super stubborn. He's gonna tell you that, that he's feeling good, even though he's feeling run down. I even ask him sometimes. I'm like, man, you need to be a little bit more honest with me. And he's like, yeah, I just try to convince myself that everything's fine. So sometimes it backfires a little bit, but for the most part, it's I'm really thankful for all those guys. I have such a great group of people to work with, and athletes to work with, and I've been super thankful that they've stuck with me through this whole thing, and I'm doing my best to offer whatever I can. And so there's definitely been a lot of growth in the meantime with myself and between us, and still have a really great relationship with everyone, and it'll keep going in the future for sure.
So take me through. Chase had some good news that he posted yesterday, I think it was, that he's feeling better and probably going to race this weekend. So you got any insight? I'll probably ask him about it too, but sounded like somebody discovered something that's going to allow him to get back to the races.
Yeah, so after Florida, actually going into Florida, he was doing really good, in a really good spot, recovering. He's recovering really good, and he won that first moto, and we're all super stoked. Obviously, his first moto win of his motocross career, and then it kind of came to a surprise that the next moto he wasn't even able to line up, and he definitely suffered through some heat exhaustion there. I wouldn't say heat stroke or anything like that. I don't think it was to that extent, and he was pretty smart that day with deciding not to go out the second moto, because I mean at that point he's not in a championship position or anything like that. So played it smart, and then the next week, that was kind of like one of those weeks that he told me everything's all good, I'm feeling fine, and still doing motos and all that, but it wasn't the case by any means. He was not sleeping well, getting some headaches, and just dealing with a lot of fatigue, and then tried to go to Southwick, and he was definitely not the same guy as everyone saw. He's, bad start, making mistakes, didn't have any aggression or anything like that. So Monday after Southwick, he went to the doctor, got a blood panel, and got some results. He also got a CT scan of his head to make sure that everything was all good. Mm-hmm. Everything looked fine there, but what we did find was a couple of things in his blood panel that were a little bit low in some areas of nutrients, and then high in other areas. Nothing too crazy, but what was going on there on a chemical level in his body was Um, he what he was lacking in was kind of allowing his body to not cool itself down properly like it should. So his body was overheating more than what it normally would. So quickly got him on a few supplements that he was lacking in. He took about a week off, just very light, active, cardio and things like that, and active recovery things. But he didn't ride the bike for over a week, even maybe more than that. But now he's feeling really good and recovering on a day basis like he was, and sleeping good again, mood back chipper again like the old Chase, and so we're looking good and ready to go to Millville.
Hey, so going into Florida, everybody knew that was going to be a tough race. Do you change, be it for Chase or anyone in general, do you change the program going into a race like that?
Yeah, everyone's a little bit different, and I kind of like to lean towards the safer side of making sure they go into a race like that fully rested and not having too heavy of a week. And so maybe just being smart, kind of when you do your bigger days on the bike. Let's say put it towards the beginning of the week, and then from maybe Tuesday or middle of Wednesday, just really from then on the rest of the week, focus, kind of shift your focus into more recovery and just make sure you're staying on top of hydration. Don't be out in the heat any more than what you really need to.
Yeah.
Making sure you're not dipping into your energy stores and your glycogen stores and things like that. That way you're staying on top of recovery day to day. Making sure you're getting plenty of salts and electrolytes and things like that, and maintaining body weight. But there's a lot of things that you just have to make sure you're checking off all the boxes and making sure you're looking good on everything. So yeah, there's really a lot of, that's kind of just the thing that you do this time of the year with every race. It's not, no one really predicted that Florida was necessarily going to be that hard on everyone, but it did. So it kind of snuck up on everyone. But we don't necessarily treat Florida any different than what we would going into Millville or Southwick or any of these races. You gotta make sure that stuff is. You gotta make sure that everything's. Your recovery and hydration and everything is perfect all year round.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to get at here, because people are going to say, how could the Florida race have snuck up on you guys? What you mean is you're taking every race as seriously as possible. It's not just, all of a sudden this race is going to be hot, so we need to be on it. You're just treating every race, trying to come in as strong as possible, whether it's in Massachusetts or Florida. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can never really predict. Everyone's seen in years past where there's just been one random race, whether it be, you've seen it with Southwick kind of fry guys before,
yep.
or
I've seen it at Millville and Washougal randomly. Millville, Washougal has happened.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And even as early as the second and third round, there just been a sneaky hard race. So yeah, making sure that you're on top of that all year round is going to be important. And plus, it's like, if let's say you don't completely drain yourself at one race, you maybe you just barely have a little bit left over from that week. It carries in, week to week. It's these guys don't get very much time off. So that's so important this time of the year.
Okay, so when you have a 3-race stretch that is coming up and it's going to be tough, it's back-to-backs, it's a Florida race, a Southwick Sand race, Redbud is always tough. Do you literally say, you got to do less riding or less bicycle stuff? Does that change?
Yeah, it does. And just kind of prioritizing some weeks ahead, and maybe you can use a weekend off to. Maybe this point of the year, you're not really going to make too too many fitness gains or anything like that. So trying to do so would be really silly. So right now it's just making sure that you're staying sharp on the bike. And these guys, I mean, they don't even. I think mentally they think that they have to be doing 30-minute motos all the time.
Right.
But really, they've done so many 30-minute motos up to this point. It's like if you're not capable of doing it now, then it's just not going to happen through the rest of the year. So all of these right now is maintaining your recovery energy and showing up at the races on the weekend with a full gas tank or full tank gas.
Yeah.
And just making sure that you can really hammer down on the weekend and don't leave anything during the week.
So let me put it this way then. Is it actually like the amount of riding and the load that the guys had during that stretch was actually fine, and just in Chase's case, it was this other deficiency that actually was the problem? Like a couple extra days or not of doing laps at the track wouldn't have changed things here or there, or wasn't the problem here or there?
No, I mean, if you know Chase, he's an animal. He's very, very, very strong,
right?
And he's mentally strong as well. He's a pretty well-rounded motocross athlete. So yeah, I believe it was definitely towards the being deficient in some of his areas in his blood test results.
Yep.
I would definitely put a lot of that into a lot of focus into just kind of making sure that he's in the future kind of avoiding dipping down into any of his nutrient levels and things like that. So yeah, I would definitely say that was most of the problem there.
Right. And then Ken, he's just dealing with a weirdo deal altogether, I guess, right? Like that's got to be tough for any of you to get your heads wrapped around, from what at least seems like on the outside.
Yeah, I definitely. It's been kind of an ongoing thing all year,
right?
With Ken, he's been fighting this thing, and I know what he's capable of, and everyone knows what he's capable of, and it really seems like he's, from an outsider, you could say, oh, he's lacking in fitness. He's not fit and strong.
Yeah.
But trust me, he's plenty fit. He's just not. He's not feeling well, and he's not able to tap into his full potential right now, and he wakes up feeling super tired, drained, lethargic, can't trouble sleeping at night, things like that. So those are all signs that there's something going on with him, and if it'd be an issue if he was going like 20-25 minutes into a moto and then just falling off and maybe starting to lose two seconds a lap or something like that. But like as you guys saw at second moto in Florida, even maybe first moto, and then Southwick, both motos, he gets 5 minutes into the moto and he drops off big time, and then he's anywhere between 6 to even 8 seconds a lap off the pace of the leader. So that's a huge sign that something's going on there, and I think coming soon, I think everyone will be updated with kind of some of the things that we've been finding out with him.
Okay. But unfortunately, this isn't as simple as, oh, he's got Epstein-Barr or something easy to pop up. Like, no simple answer has popped up. I know you've tried, but it hasn't been that simple to nail it down.
No, it hasn't. Yeah. It's definitely tough, and he's seen a lot of specialists and really, really knowledgeable people, and haven't quite nailed it down, which is just crazy. It feels like we're chasing our tail with him, and he's kind of started to lose hope a little bit. But I think he'll be fine. Through the rest of the year, I think he'll do his best. But in the off season is going to be really the time to get his health back good again. And I think we've maybe found a little bit of answers over this week break.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure on his time or something, maybe he'll talk about it eventually down the road about how he's felt and some of the things that we found out.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to put that on you. Even in Chase's case too, that's really up to them to speak on it. But yeah, overall, man, it's got to be got to be frustrating. But what you find out is everyone is so on the edge now. Like, no one's guessing. Like, every single thing you've mentioned about, like, you've got to stay on top of this, that. There's so, at this level, it is so close to the edge of, like, doing not enough or doing too much and getting it all right. Like, it's down to, you guys are down to, like, the 1%, it seems like, from talking to a variety of trainers lately.
Yeah, for sure. And when these guys have a schedule as crazy as what they do, it's you're constantly redlining your body all year. You're asking a lot out of your body, so anything can kind of flare up at any time. So, it's I don't know, it's difficult for sure. So, yeah, it's a lot to ask out of these guys, but I mean, with every downside, there's an upside to things, and we've learned through this process a lot. So a lot of things that we'll be able to kind of look for or maybe avoid in the future, and yeah, even with Chase's Chase's issue that he had, I told him, I'm like, as crappy as this is you know, I know you don't want to sit out Redbud, but you know, we're both, us and his whole team of people around him, we're all gonna learn from this, and we're gonna become better. And you know, he's only 19 years old and has plenty of racing to do in his career. So main thing is just getting his health back, and for the both of them. And it seems like it, you know, when it rains it pours, and you know, with Cole getting an injury, and then Ken getting sick, and then Chase being out, and then Christian dealing with his deal, it's like, holy cow, you know, it seems like everything kind of came unraveled at one point, but it's not like one certain thing happened with everyone. Everyone kind of had their own issue going on at one time. So little unfortunate, but I know for me and even all those guys, everyone's kind of learning through this whole process.
Dude, yeah, I think it's safe to say 2019 is not going to go down as your all-time favorite year. It's not going to be.
No, but it's going to be definitely a learning year for me. I know.
Yep.
Over the last couple of months, and a lot of the specialists and people that we've kind of brought in to, and doctors and people who've brought in to talk about this stuff and observe what's going on, we've all learned a ton from it. And I know it's, you know, you just wish that things would be going perfectly all the time, and you could just be winning races and championships. And but unfortunately, that's just how the cookie crumbles. And you just wish you could push reset on it and you know, start over. But yeah, we're all going to get this turned around and be looking good in the future and winning races. And I know in the toughest times, you just think that it's never going to end, but it will. It definitely will. We're all working hard to get back on top and winning races again.
There you go. And the coolest thing, like you said, that they've kept you as part of this process through the whole time. So, you know, that's been cool. Yep.
Yeah, yep. Exactly.
All right. Well, good update. And yeah, we'll see. Both guys are racing this weekend, so maybe you'll make some headway real soon. It's always possible.
Yeah. That's definitely the upside is you can always you know, you get to race so much during the year that you may have you know, a bad weekend one weekend, but you can always race the next weekend. And yeah, sometimes you leave the weekend with your tail tucked between your legs, and then the next weekend you're like, oh man, we're looking pretty good again. So yeah, so hopefully that's the case this weekend. I know Chase and even Ken, they're going to be coming into Millville probably, I would think, looking better than what they did at Southwick.
So that's our interview. That's our episode. And how about Blake Savage always feeling positive despite all the obstacles that have been thrown in the way of his riders? Yeah, he works with Christian Craig, Cole Seeley, Ken Roczen, and Chase Sexton. Can you take on more hits than that? It's been a rough year, but a learning year, as he likes to spin it. That's what trainers do, man. They take the negative and turn it into a positive. Thanks to him for the time. Thanks to you for listening. Hope to see some of you folks maybe this weekend at Spring Spring Creek, Millville, Minnesota. Shout out to Yoshimura. Go to yoshimura-rd.com for all the latest on their products. They've got an exhaust system for your machine. Like I mentioned, those CRF 110F and CRF 125F systems look sweet. It's cool to see manufacturers pouring some R&D into the entry-level bike market, maybe get some new people riding, and maybe they'll come to the races themselves. Thanks for listening to the Racer X Exhaust podcast. We'll see you next week.